Hillary believes that it's vital to deceive the people by having one public policy and a totally different policy in private. That's okay. I don't know who they're angry at, Hillary, you're right. For example, here she is tonight in public, pretending not to hate Catholics. Now, if some of you haven't noticed, Hillary isn't laughing as much as the rest of us. That's because she knows the jokes. And all of the jokes were given to her in advance of the dinner by Donna Brazile, which is, everyone knows, of course, Hillary's belief that it takes a village, which only makes sense, after all, in places like Haiti, where she's taken a number of them.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we take a look at the latest new Q posts, and Q tells us about the possible plan to destroy this country from within. I have incredible new information on that, plus some information from sources about the Arizona Mafia that you guys are going to want to hear. We're going to talk about the latest Q post, breaking news, and a bunch of big major bombshells. So you guys are going to want to stick around and check that out, and a whole lot more. Hi, my name's Craig. Welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I say thank you if you've come and hit that subscribe button. If you guys haven't done it, please come here, click the big red subscribe button, and make sure you hit the bell for notifications. Then select all so you get notified as soon as all of these videos get posted. Today we are going to start where we left off. We left off at Q post 3880, and we're picking up at 3881. A bunch of new posts. We have some information we're going to cover here from some sources that I have about some major stories related to other whistleblowers who are in the same position as those we're seeing here. And there's just a lot of information we're going to cover here on this episode. So let's get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. First of all, this is the Q post that we're going to start off at. It's 3881, and it's Q giving us this post from December of 2019 where it said, fired forced about the FBI, DOJ, state, Senate, Congress, CIA, DOD, and then it said hired installed at the Supreme Court, federal judiciary, DOJ, CIA, locked and loaded. Q. So what Q was telling us, in my opinion, if you look at this post and compare it to all the information that we're having come out now, is that President Trump has been working actively since he got in office to replace and or fire and remove all of these individuals who are related to this insurgency that was taking place inside of our government. That's the best way to really describe it. It was almost identical to any other insurgent movement where you infiltrate and then you basically destroy from within so you can rebuild it with your own system, right? That's what it seeks to do, and that's what happened here, like a cancer growing inside of our country. But that is where we're at now. And what Q wants us to look at is this story that came out just now on Twitter. And this is an interview given, right, by this Nate Kane. And according to my sources, this guy is the real deal. His information, not only, obviously Q telling us about it now, but I've been hearing about him for quite some time, actually. And Q's mentioned him before, saying to hang in there. But this guy's finally coming forward with his story. And what is it? Well, you guys should go listen to this full podcast. It's 49 minutes that you need to listen to. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. It's from this Bards of War podcast, and you guys should go check that out on Twitter, or excuse me, on YouTube if you want to watch this. I'll leave a link, as I said. But in this interview, what he explains is why the FBI executed the search warrant on his house, what information he was trying to blow the whistle on, why he was doing it, and his whole basically story behind how he got to where he is at now. And it's interesting. I'll kind of sum it up in brief here. He was tasked to go work at the FBI around 2016. He overheard a conversation of people talking about major crimes being committed by Hillary Clinton that would have constituted treason, right? So he decided to do a little digging on his own, and I'll let you guys watch the interview to get all the details, but he basically comes up with a bunch of information about all these different crimes, money laundering, trafficking, and aid, all the way up to aiding terrorists, abetting terrorists. And that is what he blew the whistle on, because this is all around the same time that the FBI has this active investigation going on into Hillary Clinton for all of these different crimes that are related to Uranium One and the Clinton Foundation, and how they were selling special access program information possibly, and how they were engaged in these other very criminal, treasonous acts. And he, kind of said that he knew not to dig into places where he didn't need to know, but he said after he overheard that conversation, he went and opened a few files and realized there was this open investigation. And that's right when James Comey came out. And remember, this is back in Obama's, when a lot of the Obama guys were still running the FBI and the DOJ, like Loretta Lynch and was the AG, and then you had James Comey run the FBI. And this is when James Comey came out right before the election and said no reasonable prosecutor would go after this. These charges don't amount to much, and that Hillary doesn't know anything about emails and she's not very technical, which all seemed to him, according to his words, basically seemed not right. And it seemed like it was a bold-faced lie. I don't think that's exactly, I'm not quoting him exactly, but that's what he basically was getting at. So he took all that information and went to the House Intelligence Permanent Committee, the Senate Intelligence Permanent Committee, because he thought he had to get the information up. So he goes, he has a meeting with Devin Nunes, drops off some information, and I think Nunes asks him to go back in and get more. So he goes back in and gets more. Then he can't get back in touch with the Intel Committee people that he was dealing with. So then he had to deliver the information by hand to the Inspector General Michael Horowitz, who had this information, then pass that over to the Intelligence Committee. And this was all right around the time, because of the delay and how long it took to get the information to the people, that this was all around the time when Devin Nunes was still in charge of the House Intelligence Committee, but it was right before or during, I guess, kind of the election. And when Adam Schiff took over the House Intelligence Committee, that's when they suppressed this information that he had brought forward, which basically showed that the FBI was openly investigating the Clinton Foundation for these crimes that he's outlining here in his podcast. So you guys should go watch it to get the full scoop, but that's kind of a brief summary of it. And that's what Q wants us to look at. Then Q says, listen carefully, think, why no arrest justice yet? What if almost every critical position senior within the U.S. government apparatus was infiltrated? What must be done first? The swamp runs deep, plus sleepers. Backgrounds are important. Muslim Brotherhood, list of, in the news now, names with known ties to Islam. This is not another four-year election. Assumptions correct. Package well received. Known. Q. So, I mean, obviously when you read through that, it's telling us something that we already know. President Trump's draining the swamp. Q's informing us that it's still happening. We don't even realize how deep it all goes. And also, guys, from what I'm hearing from my sources, I don't think we even understand the structure in which our government has been working for the last 2 decades, it seems, because something is really wrong. And I'm going to be getting into this in future episodes, but it has everything to do with this global commerce system and these maritime laws, and how we've basically been in a position of uncertainty for the last 2 decades, in my opinion. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. It's kind of going down another rabbit hole, and we'll save that for another time. But here we are, where Q in the next post, right, gives us this link to this COIN, which is counterinsurgency. It's a tactical guide, I guess, for the Department of the U.S. government in the United States Interagency Counterinsurgency Initiative. Now, what is this and why is it special? Well, a few people have pointed out some interesting facts about this. First of all, this is a description of how an insurgency and counterinsurgency would run itself. And it's kind of like a guide, I guess, for people, and you could understand it for people making bigger decisions on a war planning when they go, and we had all these wars like Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. That was what this was. It was outlining how an insurgency works. But what's fascinating is a few things. First of all, it was signed exactly 1 week before President Obama was sworn into office on January 13, 2009 by the George Bush administration. They actually published this and put it out there and signed it. Then you also see that not only was this put together a week before President Obama was installed into office, but if you read through it, it's just got all these different sections. Now, I'm not going to read through the whole document because there's a lot here. It kind of defines, what insurgency is and all that stuff. But one of the parts that I thought was really, really interesting here was where it talked about domestic versus foreign insurgency, and then it talks about the insurgent political strategy, right? And it gives this outline of how all these tactics are used to actually, to actually execute a insurgency. And then, of course, here it actually outlines how a counterinsurgency would work in the domestic realm versus the overseas realm. So it actually outlines how you have domestic, the possibility of having a domestic counterinsurgency and how it would work. And of course, it says here the United States may not be the only foreign country prepared to assist the affected nation. And it goes on to talk about all these different things about how it works. But ultimately, you guys can read through this for yourself. But I think Q's sharing it with us to let us know a very specific part. And it's mentioned here by Q. It says, insurgency is the organized use of subversion and violence to seize, nullify, or challenge political control of a region. The presidency of Barack Hussein Obama began at noon Eastern on January 20, 2009, when Barack Obama was inaugurated as the 44th President of the United States. What country was the true intended target? Q. So, has Barack Obama's entire administration been a part of an organized insurgency to overtake our government from within, clandestinely, using subterfuge, sabotage, corruption, and other methods? I don't know. I'm asking you that question, and it's for you guys to decide for yourself once you examine all of the information and make an informed decision. I mean, to me, though, this is telling of where we're at, where we were, and how we've gotten to where we're at today. And I think there may be a lot more factions at work here, and a lot more people working on all of this as we go. So suffice it to say that this is a big story, and it's something to be looked at. And we're going to get into a few other big stories here, including the fact that we have this countdown, right? As we look at this Anon's post that Q references here, where it talks about the Disney CEO, Bob Iger, stepping down from his position at the company, and he'll be replaced by Bob Chapek. And of course, what also you have to remember here is when you look at this, it says that Q says the silent war continues, and it has 2 dots. Now, why is that important? Well, we know that it started as Anon's picked up on the fact there may be a countdown here. The silent war continues is left with 5 dots here, then 4 periods there, then 3 periods in this post, and then 2 periods in this post, which means we're counting down to something major. And I'm not sure exactly what that is yet, but it seems like Q is giving us a heads up that something big is coming, and there's a countdown in the works. So I don't know what you guys want to make with that. It seems that Anon's picked up on that pretty quickly, and I thought I'd share that with you. And obviously, the CEO's resigning is something Q talked about would be a marker in the future of major events, happening, is when you see these major resignations and this kind of stuff. So it's definitely worth noting. Now, finally here, Q post 3884 talks about this post that Q gave us back on February 25th, 2019. So exactly a year ago today. And it says, now, isn't that interesting? And this talked about these disgusting tweets from Patton Oswalt, where it made fun of, abusing children, basically, in no other terms, right? That's what it's making a joke about. And then it says, who will be the next to fall post Weinstein? Big name coming. Nobody is safe. Dark to light. These people are sick. Q. So is it a coincidence that Harvey Weinstein, was found guilty the day before the 1-year delta on Q's post, and talking about these people who have abused or have made jokes about abusing others or have been involved in it in reality? I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to you. But I will say this, that there have been too many coincidences for this all to be mathematically possible. So it seems as though this was just another predictive capability of Q. We talked about Project Looking Glass previously. If you guys want to do more research on that, go back in the library on the channel, and there's a video about it that talks about what it does and what it is. That's just a theory, so you guys can go look at it and make your own mind up. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A few more things, though, before we go. First of all, there's a major story I want to talk about, right? And it's with regard to the Q post that we just looked at, this one about Bob Iger, and I just wanted to mention this really quickly before we go forward. And it talks about how he was obviously the co-chair of a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, and he was named President-elect Trump's Strategic and Policy Forum, or named to the Strategic Policy Forum of President Trump in 2016, and then he resigned from that council in 2017 once he figured out that President Trump wasn't going to play ball with the globalist cabal. So he's been removed, and now we have another very interesting story that broke. The FBI NYPD raid a fashion executive named Peter Nygaard's headquarters in a sex trafficking pedophilia investigation. Now what it alleges is something very similar to what we saw with Jeffrey Epstein, where Peter Nygaard is being accused of having women procured for him that were only in the age of 14 to 15 years old, and were brought to him, and he's infamous for having multiple girlfriends and living like a playboy, as it says here in the article. So that's another place to go start looking deeper into, especially when you look at the fact that you have the forensic psychologist who testified for the prosecution at Harvey Weinstein's trial, hit by a car merely the day after the guilty sentence, right? So these people, in my opinion, are so sick and evil that they will do anything to get back at those who cross them, and that's how they intimidate others. That's how they keep they keep silence around these issues, right? And that relates directly to this story that's been brought to my attention. Now, there is a group that has been called or referred to as the Arizona Mafia. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of them by now, but this group is headed by a woman, allegedly a woman by the name of Janet Napolitano, who is the, I guess, former mayor or governor of Arizona, and she's been involved in one of the biggest criminal families there ever was. If you guys haven't heard of the Salinas family, let's just say I got a few friends who may or may not be looking at these people very closely and understanding the exact control that this Salinas family cartel, who has run most of Mexico and is now has infiltrated a lot of our country, what we're doing is we're exposing this syndicate, these criminal syndicates within our country who act, in my opinion, according to things I've heard, allegedly, in an extrajudicial way, and they are a part of a very large syndicate of criminals who are engaged in extortion, bribery, money laundering, theft, human trafficking, sex trafficking, you name it. Now, how do I know all this? Well, it came to my attention after a few of my sources pointed out to me that this story about Philip Haney that we covered here on the channel the other day, this story right here, Philip Haney, DHS whistleblower during Obama era found dead, police say. Now, and this is after a U.S. congressman came forward and said that this man did not commit suicide and that it was a hit because he had information that was going to implicate the highest levels of the Obama administration in some very criminal organized crime. So after I ran this story where I talked about this yesterday, I had somebody reach out and say, look, it's not just Philip Haney, and they have a strong suspicion that this death was connected directly with the Salinas crime cartel. And I'm only saying that because I've heard it, and I'm going to leave that for you guys to decide, but I'm sure that this is going to reach the right people who need to know this to be able to go forward and investigate this correctly. But let's say that is just something that is out there. It's something that people have been talking about. And then if you look closely at his story, he was going to be testifying about the way that our government was basically allowing these terrorist attacks to happen because they stopped doing surveillance on the individuals who ended up committing the crimes, right? And they had all the capability in the world to stop these individuals, yet it's still unknown why they decided to withdraw their investigations and surveillance and then allow these atrocities to happen. And this was something he was blowing the whistle on. And then this ties directly with this post right here, which is from this well-informed whistleblower, which is a relatively new Twitter account that's been putting up some pretty good information lately. And they're coming forward here talking about this Kevin Spidell. And now what they have both in common, Kevin Spidell and the other whistleblower, Philip Haney, is that they were both coming forward exposing this Arizona mafia that's supposedly, allegedly ran by none other than the former Arizona governor, Janet Napolitano. And then this all ties back to this person, Dennis Burke, who was apparently, according to some other reports, one of the charter members of this Arizona mafia, but he's also Claire Bronfman's attorney. Now, we all know Claire Bronfman ties back to Nexium, which ties back to Keith Raniere, which in this theory, I guess you could say, all ties back to the Salinas crime organization. So right now, we're in the process of basically deciphering what this is, but these are very powerful people, ladies and gentlemen, and these people do not want information coming out that will expose the influence that they've obtained inside this country, the power that they've obtained inside this country, and the ability to basically commit their criminal organization's agenda or mission without any pushback up till this point, because previous administrations have been involved with these same individuals, right? So Dennis Burke was a former U.S. attorney who then turned out to resign from his office after what? Oh, the Fast and Furious, where it's alleged by some of my sources who seem to think it's very possible that he was the one actually distributing the weapons to the Mexican cartels. So if that is true, and then he decides to resign because he doesn't want, they knew they were about to start an investigation into him, and then Eric Holder basically covered it all up and kept it from going to an investigation, then you have a criminal conspiracy right there. But then it goes even further, that this guy goes on to then become the lawyer to Bronfman, right, who's connected directly to the Salinas crime family, and the Arizona mafia have been a part of this syndicate for some time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to read through all this. Remember, this one name, though, the former mayor of Nogales, his name is Marco Lopez, who was also the youngest mayor in America. This guy is integral because he's going to be the one running for governor of Arizona coming up, and they're trying to reinstall this the Arizona mafia in this state, I think, allegedly, according to this theory, whatever you want to call it. So you guys can read through these articles. I'll leave links to all of them. I just had to get that out there because that information is really important. And, finally, before we go, I want to wrap it up with the idea that we have the coronavirus coming here in America. Apparently, there's been new cases that have popped up here in Napa County, California, that are very suspicious. And they all tie back to something. Now, of course, I have sources, and everybody out there watching who knows will realize that when they see some of this information, I'm sure. But the sources come to me and say, look, you need to look at what's happening in Napa Valley, California. You need to look at who is there, why these people from this cruise line who aren't from Napa, California, Napa County, have been placed there with the coronavirus, and then look at the individuals running that organization, such as the person named by Governor Brown as the public health officer for Napa County, this Dr. Karen Lucio, and maybe look at these people a little bit closely and ask yourself, people like this who have specialities in infectious diseases, which would make sense why they would be bringing them into the Napa county health system to try to solve it. But maybe dig a little deeper on some of these people. I'm just putting this out there for the Anons. You guys know who you are, and perhaps there'd be some information that you could get from a little bit of a deeper dive in all of this, especially given that coronavirus is confirmed now in that Napa County, and that they're reporting that basically it's going to spread across the United States. So this is something to look at more closely. Is it a convenient coincidence that a lot of these criminals, these corrupt criminals who would have fled to China when President Trump started cracking down on their corrupt syndicate inside this country, that is it convenient that the coronavirus has shut down all the borders and made it nearly impossible to fly in or out of the country to any other foreign nation, and all of these places like Italy are being shut down? I don't know. Maybe people should start, reading up on some of these theories that are out there. and start digging a little deeper. I'm going to keep doing it on my end, and if I get more information, I'm going to share it with you as soon as I do. But that's where I'm at right now with my digs and the information that I'm going over. So I just figured I'd share that with you guys, and that's pretty much where we're going to wrap this episode up. A few more things before we go. Obviously, come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about everything that we talked about here on this channel tonight. So another way you can help out the channel, you can be brave. Download the Brave browser. It's free. Use the link in the description to download the Brave browser today. It's better than Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, whatever internet browser you're using now, it's better. And I just found out today that Brave browser is actually integrating its product with the Internet Time Machine so that we can actually catalog and store information offline, and that you'll be able to go back and look at different web pages. So not only do they block the ads, not only do they have a built-in Tor browser, but they have the Internet Time Machine built into it, so you can actually catalog and store screenshots of pages so that you can't get memory hold or pulled off the internet. So this product's great. Use the link in the description to download it, install it, and run it today on your computer, and they'll make a contribution to this channel. So it's a win-win. Use the link in the description. Download Brave today. Also, don't forget to come check me out over here on Twitter at JUSTINFORMED. It's a great way to connect outside the channel. I'm also over here at JUSTINFORMEDnews.com. It's another way you can get connected. And BitChute.com/JustinFormedTalk is the backup channel. So if you guys want to get connected with any of those, go check them out over on their platforms. Links to everything will be in the description. A couple other ways you can help out: Patreon, patreon.com/JustinFormedTalk. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it through this crowdfunding website. I know you're helping create content on this channel on a regular basis because YouTube's demonetized it. They've tried to put it out of business. And, you know, I try to get outside advertisers here and there, but you guys keep this channel going. Without your support, I could not do this full time. So thank you for your support. Also, I have a GoFundMe set up. If you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation, links to everything will be in the description. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And today, I want to share this piece of scripture out of the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1 through 6. And it talks about the light of the gospel. And I think when we look at all these dark things and we see the darkness, the evil, the corruption, the sinful people out there that live in this world, sometimes we have to understand that we can't get through to everyone, but we have to try. And God tells us what happens to those who don't receive the message of the gospel, who don't embrace their salvation through Christ. And it kind of is laid out for us right here. So I'm going to read this to you, and then we'll talk about it briefly. It says, therefore, since we have this ministry as we have received mercy, we do not give up. Instead, we have renounced shameful secret things, not walking in deceit or distorting God's message, but in God's sight, we commend ourselves to every person's conscience by an open display of the truth. But if in fact our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. Regarding them, the God of this age has blinded the minds of the unbelievers, so they cannot see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. For we are not proclaiming ourselves, but Jesus Christ as Lord, and ourselves as your slaves because of Jesus. For God, who said, light shall shine out of darkness, he has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of God's glory in the face of Jesus Christ. And that's our message, our mission, I should say. And our message is those who can't see the glory of God, those who can't see that the gospel of Christ is the ultimate pathway to salvation, they're the ones who will end up perishing, right? They're the ones who, as it says here, the God of this age has blinded their minds, and they cannot see the light of the gospel. So we have to shine brighter then. That means that we have to put God out there every single day and live with Christ in our hearts and the Holy Spirit. Let the Holy Spirit come and work through us and guide us and do unto others and be kind and help others and live an upright, honest, truthful life of integrity and righteousness, because That's how we defeat this evil. That's how we overcome it. That's how we transcend it. We have to live with that every single day as our mission, to honor God, to honor our family, to honor our country, to honor everything that we hold sacred, and remember that if we do it with Christ in our heart and the Holy Spirit inside of us and God at our backs, we can do anything. So that's my message to you. I want to say thank you for watching. Again, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and hit it, bump it, tap it, whatever, headbutt it, poke it. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. But that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.